research, one of the most important things are the variables. They are always present in research, so it is important that we understand each one of them carefully because they are the basic units of the information studied and interpreted in research studies. To give insight about it, research variables are factors that can be manipulated and measured. It is a characteristic or attribute of persons or objects which assume different values for different objects under consideration. Examples of these are age, gender, civil status, educational attainment, and many more. I know that we are all familiar with some of the variables, such as the independent and dependent. But they are not the only classifications of variables. There are more that are also needed to be studied further. The first ones are the discrete and continuous variable. These two are easy to understand and not complicated. For the discrete variable, it is a variable whose value is obtained by counting. Examples of discrete variable are number of chocolates in a jar, number of albums you own, number of books you have on your bookshelf. As you can see, they are all countable. That is why they are discrete variables. On the other hand, continuous variable, there are numerical values that can assume any value within a specified range and they are obtained by measuring. Examples of continuous variable are the length of a film, weight of rice, the temperature of a person's body. To make it easy, counting is for discrete, measuring is for continuous. Now, the second ones are the qualitative and quantitative variable. First is the qualitative. So, it is a variable that can give categorical responses. It falls into descriptive categories, things that are not measured. Example of qualitative variables are brand of jeans, color of a jacket, breed of a cat. Compared to qualitative, quantitative does involve numbers. It is a variable that are measured in terms of numbers. Examples of quantitative variable are salary, time, GPA. So if it's categorical variable, it is qualitative. If it's numeric variable, then it is quantitative variable. Next are the dependent and independent variable, which are always being talked about in researches. The independent variable, from the name itself, is the variable that stands alone. They are variables that are being controlled or manipulated in the research. On the other hand, dependent variable is the one that are measured based on the effects of the independent variables. Take this for example. A group of teachers is interested in which teaching method will work best for developing critical thinking skills. So in this example, the teaching method is the one that is being measured, which means it is the independent variable. Then, the dependent variable would be the critical thinking skills. To not complicate things, the independent variable is the cause. The dependent variable is the effect. For the last, it's a little different from the ones earlier because this is all about the number of variables in a data. These are the univariable, bivariable, and multivariable distribution. The first one is the univariable distribution. This is the simplest among the three since the data you are analyzing is only one variable. For example, the heights of 10 students in a class are measured. There is only one variable here, which is the heights of 10 students in a class. For the bivariable distribution, this is where you are comparing two variables to study their relationships. Example, an ice cream shop keeps track of how much they sell in summer season and the temperature of the day. The two variables here are the temperature and sales. Lastly, the multivariable distribution. It is similar to bivariable, but you are comparing more than two variables here. Example for this is a doctor has collected data on cholesterol, blood pressure, and weight. She also collected data on the eating habits of the subjects, like how many ounces of red meat, fish, dairy products, and chocolate consumed per week. She wants to investigate the relationship between the three measures of health and eating habits. So, this is a good example of multivariable because there's a lot of variables stated. All of the classifications of variables mentioned are important in research, so it is vital for us to have a better understanding of each one of them.
Nominal scale. Ito ay walang numerical value. Paminsan ito ay tinatawag na categorical scales or categorical data. Ang nasabing scale ay nag-uuri ng tao o mga bagay sa dalawa o higit pang mga category. Ang example naman nito ay kagaya ng ating gender, kung male or female ba, hair colors, nationalities or marital status, at sobrang dami pang iba. Pangalawa naman ay ang ordinal scale. Ang ordinal scale ay isa kung saan posibleng mag-order ng mga elemento sa ilang katangian. Dito ay nakaklasify at nararank kung ang isang bagay or subject ay madami, kokonti, paminsan naman ay kung mataas or mababa. Ang isang example naman nito ay kaya kung kapag may pinapanood tayo sa school na film or movie, tapos kailangan natin i-rate kung tayo ba ay satisfied or hindi sa ating napanood, kung maganda ba or hindi yung film. Isa pang halimbawa nito ay kung nasa ang educational level, kung nasa primary, secondary, or post-secondary ang isang tao. Ang pangatlo, o ang pangalawa sa huli ay ang interval scale. Ito naman ay walang true zero point or zero value. Andito na lahat ng katangian kagaya ng sa nominal at ordinal. At ang example naman nito ay pagdating sa temperature ng isang room. Pwede natin siyang ikumpara sa ating classroom at gagamitin natin ang Celsius or Fahrenheit, or isa pang example yung IQ test or time of a day in a 12 hour. At ang panghuli naman ay ang ratio scale. Dito ay mayroong absolute value of 0. It is quantitative in nature. Kinakatawan o nakapaloob dito ang pinakamataas, pinakatumpak na antas ng pagsukat. Ang example naman nito ay height ng mga lalaki, kagaya ng sa room namin or sa Site 2A, ang weight ng mga babae sa Site 2A, or ang income ng mga teacher ng CAS sa 1 month. Isa pa ang unemployment rate dito sa Lokman at sobrang dami pang iba na pwedeng ihalimbawa tungkol dito.
Dali lang pala yun, hindi ko pa nireview kagabi. Ano?
Everyone, welcome to this video tutorial on understanding population and sampling statistics. Whether you're a student or a professional, having a solid grasp on this concept is crucial for good statistical practice. So what are we waiting for? Let's dive in. First, we need to understand what a population is in statistic. A population is the entire group that you want to study or make inferences about. It's all the individuals or items that share a common characteristic. For example, let's use the average income of the residents in a city. The population in this case is the entire group of interest, which is all the residents living in a city. This includes people of various income levels, from the very wealthy to those with lower incomes. Here's the catch. Population can be huge, so that's where the concept of sample comes into play. A sample is a smaller, manageable subset of a population. It is like taking a representative slice of the whole population. In our example, instead of measuring the income of every resident, we will just select 500 households in the city and collect data on their incomes to represent the entire population. The 500 households are what we call the sample. Using sample is a practical and efficient way to make prediction or draw conclusion about the entire population without wasting time and resources needed to study the entire population. Now let's summarize the difference between sample and population. Population is the entire group of the interest, while the sample is the smaller subset of the population. Let's remember that population is often too large and costly to study entirely, while samples are used to practically and make inferences about the population. Now that we've covered the basic of population and sample, remember that your choice of sample and how it represents the population is the key to drawing meaningful conclusions in statistics. Make sure to select your sample method carefully and keep your analysis accurate.
Welcome to this video tutorial where we will explore how to compute sample size using the Cochrane formula. This method is essential in ensuring that your sample accurately represents your population. Let's get started. The Cochrane formula is a simple yet effective way to calculate the required sample size. It's commonly used in survey research. Now let's start in the step-by-step process on how to compute your sample size. First is to determine your population size. You need to know the total number of individuals or items in your population. Second is decide your margin of error. The margin of error reflects how much you allow your sample estimate to vary. It's typically expressed as percentage like 5%. The third is apply the Cochrane formula. Plug the population size and margin of error into the formula to calculate the required sample size. The fourth is round up to the whole number. The result from the formula might be a decimal. Round it up to the nearest whole number. To understand further the topic, here is the scenario. You are conducting a survey to estimate the proportion of people in a city who support a proposed environmental policy change. You want to be 95% confident in your result and you're willing to accept the margin of error of 5%. Let's assume that the city has a population of 50,000 residents. To be 95% confident, you use the C-score of 1.96 based on the standard normal distribution tables. You're willing to accept 5% margin of error, which translates to 0.05. Now let's plug in the values and calculate the values inside the formula. So you will get a sample size of approximately 49,875 respondents to estimate the proportion of people supporting the environmental policy change with a 95% confidence level and a margin of error of 5%. In practice, you would like to round this up to 49,876 to ensure that you will have a whole number of respondents in your sample.
Now that we are done with sample size, let's discuss the parameter and statistics. Parameters are characteristics that describe the entire population. Think of a parameter as the truth about the population. For example, the average income of the resident in the city based on the data from every household is the parameter. It is the truth about the population's income distribution. A statistic, on the other hand, are characteristics calculated from a sample, which is a subset of the population. A statistic estimates parameters. For example, the average income of the 500 households in your sample is a statistics. It's your best guess at the true average income for all the residents in the city. In this example, the population includes all the residents. The sample is a subset of 500 households. The parameter is the true average income of the entire population, and the statistic is the average income calculated from your sample. The statistic is used to make the inference about the parameter, as it's often impractical to measure the income of every single household in the entire city.
Ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin si research design. Research design is a very important aspect of research methodology. So, kapag pinag-uusapan natin si research methodology, pumapasok si research design. Ang research design ay isang strategy para masagot ang mga tanong sa research natin. Ito ay ang paggamit ng mga nakolek mo na data to answer your research questions. Ang research design rin ang nagdidikta ng overall na proseso kung paano kolektahin at i-analyze ang mga data na nakuha mo. Tandaan, kapag sinabing research design, maraming type yan. Mayroong action research, descriptive research, exploratory research, correlational, evaluation, policy, causal comparative, historical, ethnographic, at phenomenological research. So mamaya, mas mauunawaan natin yan kapag nagbigay ako ng mga examples.
Pag-usapan natin yung unang research design, which is yung action research, na madalas itong gamitin ng mga teachers kasi ito yung required type of research sa kanilang institusyon, whether it is public or private. So, ano nga ba ang action research? Ang focus ng action research, kasi nga mula sa salitang action, kailangan mayroong ibigay na concrete solution or action doon sa end ng research natin. So, meaning, ang action research design ay isang research method na ginagamit to solve a particular issue or problem immediately. Example ng mga action research: alternative ways of assisting struggling readers, basis for reading assistance for grade 6 students in New Normal, improving phonetic skills of grade 3 learners, using online and offline videos. Pangalawa, ang descriptive research design, na alam kong marami sa inyo ang maidiya kung ano ang research design na ito. Dahil ito ang pinaka-common type na research design na madalas gamitin ng mga researchers. Ang descriptive research design ay isang uri ng quantitative research na naglalarawan ng characteristics ng population o pangyayari. Ito rin ay nagpo-focus sa pagdidescribe ng grupo ng tao o demographic nito. Sumasagot ito sa tanong na what, where, when, and how. So, consider using descriptive kung maglalarawan ka lang ng mga datos gaya ng percentages. Examples: perception of students, comparing students' performances, human behavior, describing an event or phenomenon. Pangatlong research design, ang explanatory research. Ano nga ba ito? Mula sa salitang explanatory, which is to explain. It is explaining the causes of something. Ito ay research method na ginagamit to explain the causes and effects relationship between the study variables. And it always seeks to answer the why questions. Example ng mga explanatory research. An explanatory research design, study of how college students obtain higher average grades in the first semester than in the second semester. Dumako tayo sa pang-apat na research design, ang exploratory research. From the word itself, exploratory, meaning to explore or to investigate a new research question na hindi pa gaanong napag-aaralan. Ito ang first step and ginagamit siya to satisfy our curiosity about the topic and to better understand the research questions. Example ng exploratory research: a study into the role of social networking sites as an effective marketing communication channel. Panglimang research design, ang correlational research. Mula sa salitang correlation ng mga variables. Ito ay ginagamit to find the significant relationships between two or more variables. Ito rin ay non-experimental, which means na hindi nakokontrol or namamanipulate ng researchers ang mga variables. Example ng correlational research design: a correlational study of the relationship between sense of humor and positive psychological capacity. Pang-anim na research design, ang causal comparative. Dito pumapasok ang two important variables. Ang independent variable, which it can stand on its own, at dependent variable na nakadepende sa independent variable. Kapag sinabi nating causal comparative, ina-identify dito yung causative relationship between an independent and dependent variable. Now, huwag kang malilito sa correlational at causal comparative. Although, parehas silang gumagamit ng two or more variables, ang objective ng correlational ay ang paghahanap ng relationship between two or more variables. Okay, for example, the effectivity of teachers and the number of trainings and webinars attended. So, ano ang relationship doon sa dalawa? Hahanapin nyo kung ano yung relationship. May kinalaman ba yung pagiging effective ni teacher sa dami ng webinar na na-attendan niya or walang kinalaman? Moving on, ang objective naman ng causal comparative research is to identify if the action of variable 1 causes the result of variable 2. Okay, kung yun bang action na nangyari sa variable 1 ay ang naging dahilan niya ay itong variable 2 or vice versa. That is why we use the term causal or causality. Pangpitong research design ang evaluation research o madalas tawagin na program evaluation. Ito ay isang research design na ginagamit to measure the effectiveness or success of a particular program. Example ng evaluation research: life skills training, theory methods, and effectiveness of a drug abuse prevention approach. Pangwalong research design ang policy research. This kind of research tries to look at policy and systems na you need to change in order to improve a public outcome. Ginagamit siya to evaluate the effect and impact of such policy. And napaka-importante ng method na ito as it enable more effective advocacy for policies that can lead to improvements of something. Example ng evaluation research: life skills training, theory methods, and effectiveness of a drug abuse prevention approach. Pangsiyam na research design ang historical research. Ang historical research ay isang qualitative research design that is a collection of techniques and guidelines na ginagamit sa historical aspects. So, basically, investigation siya ng impact ng mga past or historical events on the present at future. It aims to resolve historical roots and historical conflicts. Mga example ng historical research: colonialism and resistance, the impact of American rule on Philippine history. The Study for Independence, a study of the Filipino-American War in the Philippines. Pangsampo, ang ethnographic research design. Ang ethnographic research design ay isang qualitative research na focuses on the detailed study of the cultures of a specific community or group. From the word ethno, which means race, people, or community. Sa type ng research design na ito, kinokollect ang data through close observations and extended immersions. Example ng ethnographic research: access how the culture of Mangyan tribe have changed over time. Last, o ang panghuling uri ng research design, ang phenomenological research. Ito ay isang uri ng qualitative research na nag-e-explore or nagde-describe ng lived experience o karanasan ng mga tao. It aims to understand the perspective of the person who have an experience and the impact of that perspective on the person. Halimbawa, ang isang researcher ay maaaring magsagawa ng phenomenological research sa karanasan ng jeepney drivers noong kasagsagan ng pandemya. Example ng phenomenological research: academic challenges of struggling readers during modular learning.
Okay, ready na ako sa exam.